Good morning. There's been a very recent update in BVI to some of the regulations that affect the licensees. I'm going to concentrate on the new AML requirement and reporting of that, especially for fund managers. So lots of detail here, I won't read it out, but essentially there was a gazette at short notice on the 11th of February and it's enforced from the 15th of February. And that was the Financial Services Prudential and Statistical Returns Amendment Ordinance 2021. This enhances the information that needs to be provided, and it also creates a need for non-fund entities who are licensed to provide returns. So the important thing here is, and I think the main change for my clients, is the requirement for this return for anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism. This is every licensee under these categories here, specifically the Securities Investment Business Act 2010. So this captures a lot of people. It includes insurance managers, intermediaries, and approved managers. The key here is that the AML CFT return for 2020 has to be filed by the 15th of May 2021. So that's quite short notice. Subsequent periods will align with other reporting, so the 31st of March. Some points on it before we get into the details. It's completed in an Excel document and there's quite a few tabs in there. There's drop-down menus and such like. You've got to make sure that everything is answered, even if it's nil or a zero, and there are detailed instructions available in the BVI to this. You can refer to external information, but I recommend that you make sure that is very carefully cross-referenced. And then it's an email submission, so you need to ensure that that delivery happens. And again, just to say it twice, the deadline this year is the 15th of May 2021. I'm going to look at some of the sample pages here to give you an idea of the work that will be required. These returns actually ask for an awful lot of information. So here we have one of the first pages, and it's asking for the number of board meetings, the number of senior management meetings, how long since the procedures and policies have been updated, have you done a review by a third party. I think some of this information, especially for the smaller managers, may be quite difficult, especially if we're talking senior management meeting. Whilst the board meetings may have been fully minuted and with the company secretary, some of these other management meetings, you may have to consider what that number actually is. It goes on to talk about risk assessment and talk about the board approvals and what risk weighting you're actually putting on various topics, products. We then go to record keeping, and as you can see here in the bottom of the slide, this is somewhere where there's a drop down and you can choose from them. All of these are asking for information that you should have. These ones aren't as much data because it's about where things are. But again, this is a lot of information to be ensuring that you have and you put in here. Risk pro, so this is where we start talking about actual numbers. So how many products, number of products do you have? What percentage are high risk, low risk, medium risk? What percentage do you distribute on a face-to-face basis? I think some of these numbers are not necessarily going to come out of your systems automatically. For example, 3.2.1. What percentage of the business relationships are conducted face-to-face? That I would consider is going to take work and time to actually work out what that number is and be comfortable that you're accurate. We go on to say percentage of transactions rejected or terminated, etc., etc. Lots of calculations there and lots of data needed that may not typically come out of your systems. Similar on the PEP screening, automatic manual, that's easy, that's for you to do. But how many PEPs are there within your customer base? What percentage have not been approved by senior management, etc., etc. So lots of work there again. Risk monitoring. Again, we go into detail here on a fact basis, but then we talk about frequency of testing and documentation and percentage of items. More working calculations. One of the last sheets within the spreadsheet is a geographic exposure of your PEPs. I think this is quite simple to do, but again, this will need to be worked out and will need to be done. So some practical issues. I think there's a big question of what, when you're filling this form and you realize maybe you're answering something in a way that is not best practice or not compliant. And obviously that's something you need to talk to your counsel about. I think there's significant data to be disclosed and you will need time to collect it. You need to start this process now because ultimately, as well as collecting it, you want to stress test it and make sure it's accurate. But see this as an opportunity to review your documentation, review your client base, review your risk, and actually improve on these things. This is probably a lot of work in the first year, but going forwards it should be quite straightforward to do. And I would see this as a good tool to make sure that your business is operating in a very efficient and compliant way. That's it. As always, any questions, please let me know. Thank you.